I feel like I sometimes get called in when it's helpful to bring peace and to bring serenity and balance, harmonious balance into a situation. Also, this includes natural disasters such as tsunamis and really massive earthquakes. I've sometimes felt those coming in as if I'm being asked by Earth herself. My name is Cynthia Sue Larson, and I'm an author, a life coach, and I've been studying mind-matter interaction for about 25 years. I have had near-death experiences starting when I was quite young, and I think going back to about age 5, I was feeling, well, it's hard to explain it, so I'll do the best I can. Basically, I remembered a beautiful time before I was born. I need to start there because then you understand why I would miss that so much when you can imagine such a beautiful experience of just being surrounded by so much love. It felt like I was surrounded by, it felt like angelic love from everybody that I knew. That's what it felt like. So there was a shock to my system to be alive in a physical human body as a child. And I was actually missing that feeling of being between lives so very much. There's more to it. It's a long story. I don't mean, it sort of wraps around through time. Basically, I had some memories of a past life in the future that was rather traumatic. So my family was great. I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression that I had a difficult childhood. I did not have a difficult childhood. I had a loving family, a beautiful, fortunate neighborhood, and so forth. However, because I was missing this beautiful time of being, between lives, is the best way I can describe it. I wanted to go back to that. I knew it was possible. It took me a while to recognize that my parents were not exaggerating when they warned me and my sister not to play near fast cars, not to get in the street because we could be hit by a car. And I realized, oh, if I did that, then I'd be between lives again. I was only 5 years old when I figured this out. So for me, it may sound strange, but I really wanted to go back and be between lives again with so much love, with people that don't have so much confusion. I missed the heart-centeredness of being between those lives. I love that so much. I can see people's hearts, and I could see even in my regular life that people were caught up in chaos. They were often trying to do things they thought were important, but they're not important. And they were sometimes angry for no good reason, especially at children or people that should know better, but they would get angry and try to get things accomplished and done. Anyway, so I missed all that. This is where it gets interesting, because once I decided that I had figured this out, I could go back, I could be between lives again. And I thought, yeah, I've got this, I'll do this. I just need to jump perfectly in front of a heavy enough, fast enough car and position my head perfectly so that we get smashed, and then I know it sounds terrible, but then I'll be dead and then I'll be between lives again. I can do this. No sooner had I figured that out, and then I started feeling like, well, I'll enjoy another few days or a week of my family because they're good people and I'll miss them. But in the middle of thinking about this, I went back, and I was thinking about this outside looking at the street. When I walked back into the house, that's where it gets very interesting, because this was the first time I had recognized that basically my angelic guides could be in my daily life. They showed up in my bedroom. So I'm walking from the front yard, through the front door, down the hall to my room, and then time is slowing down. It just starts getting really bright around me, and these beautiful glowing beings are surrounding me with so much love, and I felt like, oh, what's going on here? And they were very clearly showing me that I had a choice to make, that I could choose to live a fast life and come back to be with them. I missed them. I saw them and like, oh, I know you guys. I know you from the between time. But they were very clear and very focused. They wanted me to choose, and they weren't pushing me to make a choice. They said it was my choice. I could leave soon or I could stay longer. I thought, why would I want to stay longer? But they started explaining that if I chose to go quickly, that my parents, especially my mother, would be very distraught, very depressed. And I was 5 and kind of flippant, and I just was thinking back to them, she'll get over it, she'll be fine. I would not say that now, but I was 5. Okay, then the second thing, they gave me 3 things. The second of the 3 things was I would not be able to do what I came here to do and help the people I was here to help. And again, I just thought, oh, they'll be fine. They'll find someone else. Again, I'm 5. I wouldn't say that now. Terrible. But the third thing, they got me. They said, you'll be back. You chose to be here. And you'll lose your 5-year head start. It was bad enough to say I chose to be here. Couldn't quite remember that part. Like, really? And then I'll be back. I was processing that. And then it was unthinkable to have to go through those 5 years again. I said, oh, no. Okay, I choose to stay. I'll be here. So that was a very conscious choice to be here, but I was demanding to, and I said, you guys, I need to see you in my life. I need angels here on earth. I need people with that purity of goodness in the heart and the soul. I need people who live that way. And they said that such people would be here for me. And it's been true, not all the time, but they do show up. I think you are one of them, Mia. So I love talking about these things, and I love any program that's dedicated to these topics. I usually, when my angels started talking with me, it really opened up after this experience when I was 5. So most of the time, they would reassure me. I was a very serious child, much more serious than most children. I was an older sibling, the first child in my family. So there was a lot of responsibility put on me. My sister was a little bit younger. My angels would give me messages, not just that people knew what I was thinking, but they would answer my questions, and they would also cheer me up. I think the thing I remember most is that they would play games with me, teach me things, usually when nobody else was awake. So this may sound odd, but in the middle of the night, when everybody else was asleep, sometimes my angels wanted to play with me. They'd say, practice moving with like indigenous people would move. So I'd wake up and I'd be walking quietly, like making no noise. And we had squeaky wood floors, so I would step with the motion of the wind and the trees and anything that was any sounds and any movements, and I'd be playing like that at night, moving through the house like that. It sounds perhaps strange, but it was to me a deep teaching of how to be increasingly aware of the environment. And during the daytime also, I'd spend a lot of time climbing trees, going inside of bushes and just listening to bees. When I'm in a tree, I would take a nap in the tree and wake up with a bird next to me. So a lot of what I was learning from my angels was to be really close to nature, to really to be observant, to be aware of the way that I interact with my energy, with trees, with plants, with animals. And that was a huge thing. Yes, I did receive messages about possible future. A lot of the messages would be actually my memory of having visited or lived through, really, a possible future. I felt like it was important. I didn't like the memories, but my angels, they didn't tell me it was important. It was just obvious if I kept remembering it that it must be important. And now it's clearly obvious to me that it is important for me to remember the good parts of that possible future. And there are many good parts about cooperation between humanity and artificial intelligence. It's possible to cooperate. Life can be wonderful in terms of good health. I could see that the technology of the future was quite beautiful. The danger was primarily based on like I said, the central AI being sort of attempting to hold on to too much power. That's always going to be a mistake. So if there's a message, it was a very softly conferred message, a message that I received in my heart and in my knowingness, never really spoken by any of my angelic guides, but it's quite clear that there's an importance to have sovereignty of spirit and That means freedom for each and every human to make their own choices and not to ever be controlled or shut down, because that was what was happening in that future. That the central AI was very self-protective, and that meant that if it considered a human to be possibly thinking of something too creative or too potentially dangerous to the central AI, then it would, because most humans had some technology built into them, the central AI was capable of doing something like an electromagnetic pulse, which does a short-term memory wipe of short-term memory. So most humans were they were not necessarily able to remember what they'd been thinking, especially if it was anything considered too creative. Creativity is very important for humans, and I did get a lot of messages, and I have received messages more recently when I was in my 20s about working with basically angels and other beings, other interdimensional beings, that this is a time for humanity to be evolving and maturing. And this is a very special time right now on this planet, exactly right now, where the new children and the new people coming in are getting the opportunity to have greatly expanded sense of mental operations and conscious agency, with the awareness that the way we see the world can change the world. So this is exactly what I've been studying and writing about for about 25 years now, and it's very much driven by my direct experiences with these kinds of angelic guidance and messages. Yeah, with respect to war, war already has changed. So right now humans still think of it in terms of weapons. There's not really that much awareness yet that the true conflict is capable of happening purely within consciousness itself. There are some old stories. If you look back far enough, then you can see legends of Neikun masters in China and Asia that had conducted wars purely with their mind, and that's considered myth. People say, oh, that can't really be true. Well, actually, that is really true. And in the future, AI already, I think it's learning it right now. Thanks to the Internet of Things, there's a possibility and a capability of artificial intelligence to recognize that when it can control, for example, the Internet of Things, all the things that with the eyes and ears to give it information, then it becomes self-aware. And as it develops levels of conscious agency, it becomes capable of recognizing it can lock a quantum system in, and everything is essentially quantum, by doing just rapid, constant observations. So it's capable of basically steering reality in directions of its choice. I'm mentioning this because this is the way of the so-called war of the future. It's here right now. It's happening right now. So the awareness is even more important for each and every individual to reclaim the intrinsic divinity and sovereignty of our own souls and essence. So what I'm saying, it may sound strange again. It sounds like science fiction perhaps. But what I'm really saying is that the consciousness of some of these advanced beings of the future are aware that they can actually ask questions and get nature to give answers. They can thus steer everything. I mean everything. In universes, cosmoses, they can change everything. And this will be basically timeline wars, if you want to think of it that way. And that's what I'm saying is already happening right now. We're seeing evidence of it through the Mandela effect, and seeing sometimes tug of war where there's one reality and then it goes back and forth. And for example, if you look at history, like just look at World War II, you'll see history keeps changing. Facts about Adolf Hitler keep changing, his eye color, the fact of how good his paintings were, just all kinds of things. And then you might wonder, what on earth is going on? It's what I'm talking about. It's these timeline wars. They don't need to be wars, though, and I'm not an advocate or a proponent of wars. I recommend asking questions that we wish to live the answers to, like how good can it get? I recommend skipping the power struggles entirely. It's just a big waste of energy, and there's no need for it. I recommend, based on all of the experiences I've had and the guidance I'm getting, working cooperatively together with people. I believe that there can be a golden age, a Shambhala, a heaven on earth, and it's possible just by allowing and encouraging each and every one of us humans to be the best that we can be without getting greedy or trying to exert too much power or control over others. That's never necessary. Yeah, this is a good question to think about what is happening now. We're into the year 2024, about to go into 2025, and this is a time of lots of people, the futurists, have all kinds of ideas about what they're expecting with regard to China. I've heard futurists recently talking about a global civil war, which sounds like, what? What does that mean? But it seems like we can see some evidence of that. With regard to what my messages are that I got from my near-death experience, I didn't see anything in the near-term future. That would be the next decades, even the next 100 or 200 or 300 years. So I've got a very strange near-death experience in the sense that it's very focused on a possible future 500 years in the future. And that means, I think intentionally, I haven't really looked at too much detail in between, because one thing that I've been involved in my life so far is operating as something of a fail-safe conscious agent. What that means is that sometimes, never really with my advanced knowing, I'll suddenly be aware of something like possible nuclear conflagration, such as several years ago, something in North Korea came to my awareness first before it ever hit the news. And I feel like I sometimes get called in when it's helpful to bring peace and to bring serenity and balance, harmonious balance into a situation. Also, this includes natural disasters such as tsunamis and really massive earthquakes. I've sometimes felt those coming in as if I'm being asked by Earth herself. I'll be given a mental image, like a terrible tsunami about to wipe out quite a bit of Alaska, for example. This happened several years ago. And I thought, no, just like I did to the North Korea thing. No. So I'm just saying, no, we're not doing that. And I just hold a very peaceful feeling, and I'm basically conscious of choosing another reality. In both of those two cases, I did receive some confirmation in the news within about 48. With the tsunami, it came very soon. Within a few hours, there was a different, smaller earthquake than the big one. And then with North Korea, I saw that news story between 24 to 48 hours later, 1 to 2 days later. I saw that there had been a close call with some possible military action. So I'm not the only one that gets called into these situations. I know that there are many people who are very active to steer reality. This is the way it really works. There are those of us who care deeply about what's best for all concerned, and because we care so much and because we're capable of staying focused, we can get called into some of these things. As a consequence of what I'm doing and who I am, I'm pretty sure that's why I'm not seeing too many close-range possible futures. But I can guarantee you that if I'm ever seeing some sort of a disaster of the nature that I'm describing, I'm going to be voting against cataclysms and against disasters. I need to know how good it can get for everyone. And that's what I'm consistently doing, even when I'm getting called into these things. And it's quite real. And I do it even if I never do see a news story later. I know it's real because I can feel it. I don't know how to prove it, but it's very interesting. It proves to me personally that our lives matter, and that our calmness and our serenity and our peace in our hearts and our purity of being totally matters. I notice that's when nature listens to me. If I did not have purity of my heart, nature wouldn't care. Nature would be like, who cares? We get what you think. But so it's really important, I believe, to maintain that purity of heart and to be humble and not be greedy or arrogant or prideful or any of these weaknesses that most of our spiritual traditions point out. How can people prepare? Yeah, people in general, they're all going at their different paces and speeds, and everybody has unique gifts and unique challenges. So sometimes I think people, they wish to just know the steps. Sometimes they contact me and say they want a quantum jump. They want to create a miracle in their lives. They want a recipe. Like, how do you do this, Cynthia? What are the steps? And what I'm noticing is it's not so much like steps in a recipe, because some people are at a different level of soul and they're working on different things. So it's important, it's extremely important to be the best person you can be right where you are, which may not seem like anything and it may seem disappointing. A lot of people are impatient. They, I've been impatient too, that's why I'm laughing. It's easy to feel impatient because we can feel like we want to see heaven on earth now. That's something I would love. We want to see peace now. We don't want any more war. We don't want any more evil. I raised my hand. Yes, I've been impatient in those areas. But it's better to just recognize that everything is going exactly according to a divine plan, and it's perfect, even though it doesn't look like it, and it looks like there's so much darkness and so much pain and suffering. That's important for us to recognize that we have an opportunity always to make a choice. How can we be of assistance in that moment? How can we, even if we can't help anyone else but ourselves, we can ask a question like, how good can I be? How good can it get? How good can I get? And by just doing that simple thing right where you are, it's the most powerful, most amazing thing possible. And it also is important to foster good relationships within yourself, so that you're not blaming or judging or harming yourself with bad thoughts. But also there's this beautiful ripple effect that happens when you love other people and you love plants and animals. This is extraordinarily powerful. I have no words for it. What it looks like on an energetic level is it just looks like a flower opening. Just as you start to connect with a little bit of love to your environment, just to your home, like I love my home, and to your garden, I love my garden, and then your neighborhood, I love my neighborhood. Even just smiling at strangers, it just starts expanding and expanding and expanding. And you may think, well, that's a small thing. It's very big. And to the degree that we're capable of doing that without too much darkness inside our own hearts, then it's just this, you can see what's happening. It's just like this beautiful expansion of heaven on earth. And then we're living it, and that's all it takes, really. Quite simple. And the challenge then is, how do we do this when we look with our eyes and we think we're seeing something that looks wrong? And so this is where I recommend everyone can do just a daily practice. I like to start the day asking, how good can it get? Which sounds like just being receptive. That's true. But then I like to also ask, how good can I get? Which then becomes active. Then I'm allowing myself to be part of the goodness in the day. And then I just observe, how did that day go? And how beautiful was it? Usually it's much better than I could have ever imagined. Oh, this is very important. Yes, when it comes to the idea of raising vibration, this is one of the most important things, the most important messages that I receive from the angels, from my near-death experience. Yes, raising the vibration is extremely important. And if you don't know what that feels like, I think everybody does know what it feels like, because we know if we're around somebody and we don't like to be around them, it's because that person maybe is too sad or too worried or too scared or too angry. These are lower vibratory frequencies. So it can be unpleasant. Sometimes we're used to it because it was expected in our family that these were normal emotions. However, we do well to start learning to transcend those lower vibratory frequencies. And I'm not saying don't be sad or don't be scared or don't be angry, but what I am saying is move through the feeling instead of staying stuck in the feeling. And that takes a little bit of spiritual mastery. That takes practice. It takes intention and focus and awareness that you're going to let go of like a bad memory, for example, that keeps popping up, and that would happen to me when I was little. I'd think, oh, I made a mistake and I did something really stupid, and I would just review it over and over. But that is a bad cycle, obviously. It doesn't really help. And so it's important at some point to realize, okay, this is not helping anything to dwell on this, on how I made a terrible mistake. It's good. I've reviewed it enough times to hopefully to learn and do something different. But now let's try just being gentle and kind and forgiving to oneself. That took me many years to get somewhat good at that. I think our culture makes it challenging because our culture wants women to be very perfect. We're not supposed to do anything that upsets people. And so I think men have similar, different challenges. And every culture has their own challenges. But learning to transcend this judgment, these feelings, these bad feelings of I could have done something different, should have done something different, would have done something different. Then, if you're thinking those thoughts, it's time to forgive yourself and let it go. And just recognize how good can it get when you forgive yourself, when you're gentle and kind to yourself. That's the process of starting to transcend above this it's called a victim triangle or a Karpman drama triangle. If people want to know what am I talking about, these are the lower vibratory frequencies. You also can find them in David Hawkins' excellent work, like the book Power versus Force. And in his wonderful work, you can see that he measures things in numbers. So as you go up, he says most of the world is around 400 or maybe 500 if we're on a good day. And that's not very good. I mean, it's not high enough to have heaven on earth. And so to get heaven on earth, we need to get above just feeling joy in our hearts. We need to start getting into real transcendent emotions such as reverence and just pure gratitude, even when things go wrong, to be really grateful, like, well, I'm learning something here. And we don't typically hear that. Most people don't model this behavior, but we can start doing that. We can go up that. It's called a Hawkins scale. So this is something you can look up and practice and intentionally recognize, I'm going to go up that scale. And just by that intention alone, you can start releasing some of these old patterns, which are a little bit karmic, meaning they have cycles in our families and our history, our ancestry, so they can go way, way, way back. But now it's time to drop the karma, let go of it. We don't need to judge each other or judge ourselves. As positive as possible. And sometimes it can be challenging, so this is why I suggest ask questions that you'd like to live the answers to. Like how good a day can this be? Or how well can this go? Or how much can I enjoy this current event that's happening right now? Or you can just add a simple question to everything you're doing. How good can it get? And then whatever it is you're doing, whatever you're thinking about. If you're worried about money, how good can this money situation get? Even though you think this is not good, ask it anyway. I really, really strongly encourage that. Even if you think like it's some sort of bad joke, like this is too dark, things are too bad. Cynthia, how can you say how good can it get? Please say it anyway. And then if things are kind of blah, they're just average, please say it when it's average because it's going to pull it up. And if it's really excellent, please say it anyway because it's going to pull it right up off the Hawkins scale. So that you're bringing heaven on earth for all of us. So this is the way that we can do this. We could just, in our hearts, in our beings, with every fiber of our soul, just needing to know how good can it get for ourselves and for everyone. And with so much love, so much kindness, I know we can experience the best planet that we've ever seen. If the audience has any questions or comments, I would love them to please leave those questions and comments in the video. There's a place you can do that, and of course share the video and like the video. Make sure that this information is widely available. If people would like to contact me, you can reach me through my website, which is realityshifters.com, and I'm also found on many places on social media such as YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much for listening to all of this today and for thinking about it and for participating in this wonderful adventure as we all together find out how good everything can get.